The sun was low and red over Oakland that Tuesday, the kind of red that makes a cracked road look like it is bleeding. A 13-year-old black boy named Marcus walked home with 2 slices of stale bread in his pocket and no shoes on his feet. His shirt was 2 sizes too big. His stomach had been quiet for hours, the way a stomach goes quiet when it has learned not to ask. His mother was sick on a rented mattress in a one-room apartment, and the only coin in the house was a penny his little sister kept for luck. Marcus did not know that in 8 seconds, his life was about to change. He did not know that the battered biker bleeding on the road in front of him was not the quiet stranger everyone thought he was. Tonight we will see what happened when 6 bullies cornered a man in the dust, and when one hungry boy refused to keep walking. This is the story of Black Boy Saves Biker, from 6 bullies in 8 seconds. The Hells Angels reaction made national news. Marcus lived on Linwood Street, in a block where the streetlights had been broken for 2 years, and nobody came to fix them. He lived with his mother Ada, his sister Joy, who was 7, and his grandmother Mama Ife, who slept on a folded blanket by the window. His father had gone to find work 3 winters ago and never came back. Ada washed other people's clothes during the day and took a bus home at dark. Mama Ife told stories. That was her work. She told them to the children of the block for a coin if a coin was there, and for free if it was not. Marcus was small for his age. Other boys teased him for it. They called him skinny. They called him bread boy because he smelled of stale bread most afternoons. He did not fight back, not because he was afraid. He was afraid, but he had made a quiet promise to his mother that he would not come home with a swollen face again. So Marcus walked quick, kept his eyes down, and carried his anger folded up small inside his chest, like a letter he never sent. The afternoon Marcus met the biker. He had stopped at the corner bakery to ask for the day's broken loaves. The lady behind the counter, a tired Mexican woman named Rosa, knew him by name. She wrapped 2 slices in thin paper and slipped him a small bottle of water. She said, "You eat this for your mama, you hear me?" Marcus nodded. He slipped the bread into his pocket and walked east, toward the old service road that cut behind the warehouse. That road was not safe. Everybody knew it. There were no shops, no houses, no witnesses. Just cracked tarmac, an old billboard that advertised a beer that no longer existed, and the long shadow of the warehouse wall. Marcus took that road because it was the shortest way home, and because he did not believe in fear the way other boys did. He believed in speed. On that same afternoon, a big black motorcycle rolled slowly down the service road. The rider wore dark leather. His jacket had no club patch on the back. His helmet was plain black. He looked like any other rider. Maybe a long-haul trucker who had bought a new toy. Maybe a man who liked wind. Nobody on the block knew his name. His name was Dale Stone, and he had been the vice president of the Oakland chapter of the Hells Angels for 11 years. He was riding alone because he had come to meet someone, and the someone had not shown. Dale slowed to check his phone. That was his mistake. That phone cost him 6 men and a beating he would not forget. They came out from behind the billboard, one by one, like a small pack. 6 of them. The biggest was a tall boy called Roper, 16 years old, with a scar that cut his left eyebrow in half. The others followed him the way stray dogs follow a louder dog. They carried sticks. One carried a length of chain. None of them wore school shoes. Roper had a thin knife at his belt, the kind of knife city boys carry to feel tall. They saw the bike. They saw the leather. They saw the rider had his face hidden in a phone. To them, he was not a man. He was an object. They smelled something they could take. Roper stepped in front of the bike and held up his hand like a traffic cop. He smiled. He did not say a word. Behind him, 2 of the boys moved to the left of the road and 2 more to the right. The 6th one circled behind. Dale put his phone down. He was careful. He was not a man who acted quickly, because a man who rides with the angels learns that quick words and quick hands end quick lives. He said calmly, "What do you want?" Roper said, "The bike." He said it the way a child asks for candy, like the world owes him everything and he only needs to reach out his hand. Dale said no. Roper's smile left his face. He lifted the stick and brought it down on Dale's hand that still rested on the handle. The sound of wood on bone is a sound you do not forget. Dale grunted. He did not fall. He did not fight back yet, because he understood what the boys did not understand. That the moment he fought back, the story changed. The moment he pulled a weapon, he would win, but the club would have to bury him under a different story. The first stick stroke was the signal. The boys rushed in. A second boy swung a chain at Dale's shoulder. A third boy kicked his knee. The fourth threw a rock that missed his helmet by a finger's width. The fifth tried to grab the keys out of the ignition. Dale braced himself on the bike and absorbed the blows. He was bleeding from his left hand and his cheek. He did not fall. He said again, calmly, "Boys, walk away. Please, walk away." They did not walk away. Marcus was 50 meters away when the first sound reached him. He had been halfway across the lot behind the warehouse when he heard the bang of wood on metal. He stopped. He turned his head the way a deer turns its head when a branch cracks. He saw the 6 boys around the big bike. He saw the rider holding himself up like a man holding up a wall. He saw blood on the road. His first thought was to keep walking. The safe thought. The bread in his pocket was for his mother. If he got hurt, his mother had no one to bring her water. If he lost a shoe, he had no other shoe to lose. Every lesson he had been taught on Linwood Street told him to walk. 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 But Marcus had also been taught one other thing by his grandmother, Mama Ife. She had said it so many times it had become part of his breathing. A man who walks past a bleeding stranger is not a man. He may look like one. He may walk like one. But the day will come when nobody walks past his own bleeding. Marcus closed his eyes for a second, and he saw his grandmother's face. He opened his eyes and he ran toward the boys. He did not have a plan. He had 2 slices of bread, a small bottle of water, and a body that was 13 and hungry. He ran into the middle of the 6. He did not swing at them. He did not shout. He jumped onto the back of the bike, threw his arms around the rider's waist, and screamed at the top of his small voice. "Please," he said, "please, leave him alone. He is my uncle. Please go." Roper turned. He laughed. He said, "Bread boy." "Skinny, what is this? Get off the bike or I will break you in half." Marcus did not get off the bike. He squeezed Dale tighter. The other boys moved closer. Roper raised his stick. Dale, in one slow movement, put his body between Marcus and the stick. He took the second blow on his own shoulder. He did not cry out. He said to Marcus, quietly, "Hold on, hold on, hold on." Then something happened that the boys did not expect. Marcus pulled the small bottle of water from his pocket. He threw it, not at Roper, but at the feet of Roper's friend who was holding the chain. The bottle broke. Water sprayed across the concrete. The boy with the chain slipped. He fell. He hit his head on the curb and let out a small cry. In the same breath, Marcus caught the loose chain with his other hand and pulled it hard. The boy lost his grip. Marcus now held the chain. He did not swing it. He held it out in front of him, with 2 hands, like a small barrier. The 5 boys hesitated. A skinny 13-year-old, no shoes, holding a chain he had stolen from their friend, was not a thing they had planned for. Dale, in those 8 seconds, did not fight the boys. He used them. He pulled the bike's ignition key, threw the bike to neutral, and shouted one word. "Marcus," he said. "On your count. Jump off. Run." Marcus jumped off and ran 3 steps, then turned back. Roper swung his stick one more time. It caught Dale's helmet. The helmet cracked but did not split. Dale stepped forward. He caught Roper's wrist with his bleeding left hand. He said into Roper's ear, calmly, "Son, you do not know who you just hit. You do not know the man under this helmet. Walk away now while you can still walk." Roper pulled his wrist free. He looked into Dale's eyes through the cracked visor. He saw something in those eyes that made the hair on his neck go up. He stepped back. He told his boys to leave. They left. They ran. They vanished behind the billboard as if they had never been there at all. Marcus stood on the cracked road, breathing hard. His hands were shaking. The chain had slipped from his grip onto the dusty ground. The bread in his pocket was still there, slightly warm now. Dale sat down on the edge of the curb like a man who has been punched too many times in one day. He lifted his helmet with his right hand. Underneath it, his face was cut across the cheek. His left hand was swelling fast. He looked at Marcus and said, "What is your name, boy?" Marcus said, "Marcus." Dale said, "How old are you?" Marcus said, 13. Dale said, "Why did you do that?" Marcus looked at the ground. He said, "My grandma told me that if I walk past a bleeding person, the day will come when nobody walks past mine." He said it like a child repeating a song he had heard too many times. Dale, who had been a vice president of the Hells Angels for 11 years and had seen men die and men beg, felt something move in his chest. He had to look at his boots for a moment before he spoke again. He said, "Sit down." Marcus sat. Dale pulled out a small phone from inside his jacket. He made one call. He said only 3 sentences. He said, "It happened. I am on Linwood Service Road. Send the brothers." Within 9 minutes, 11 motorbikes rolled into the empty lot like a column of low thunder. Marcus tried to count them. He lost track. The men on the bikes climbed off slowly. They wore the same dark leather as Dale. On the back of each jacket, the same white and red patch was sewn with care. 3 of the men walked over to the broken bike. 2 of them walked toward Dale to look at his face. 1 of them carried a small first aid kit. The last man walked over to Marcus. He was tall, and his beard had 2 streaks of gray in it. He knelt down to Marcus's eye level. He said, "Son, what did you see?" Marcus told him. He told him everything. The 6 boys, the sticks, the chain, the bottle of water thrown at the feet, the 2 slices of bread in his pocket, the grandmother's words. The tall man with the gray beard nodded slowly. He looked at Dale, then at Marcus, then at Dale again. He stood up. He walked over to the broken billboard and pulled a tiny camera from his jacket. He had been filming. He had been filming for the last 4 minutes. He put the camera back in his pocket and said, "Brother, this boy just changed the news." What happened next did not happen on the service road. It happened on the telephones of the city. By 6 o'clock that evening, the phone of every newsroom in Oakland was ringing. By 7 o'clock, the story was on 3 local channels. By 10 o'clock, the story was on CNN. By the next morning, the story was on the front page of 2 national papers. The story was not the bikers. The story was the boy. A 13-year-old black kid, no shoes, 2 slices of bread in his pocket, had stepped between a vice president of the Hells Angels and 6 armed teenagers with nothing but a bottle of water and the words his grandmother had taught him. The men of the Angels called their lawyers. They called a school principal they knew. They called a charity that worked with injured mothers. By midnight, there was a small pile of money on Ada's rented mattress and 4 bags of groceries on Mama Ife's folded blanket. Dale walked into the apartment himself. He held out his swollen left hand to Ada and said, "Ma'am, your son saved my life today. Please let me buy my brother a pair of shoes." Roper and his 5 boys were found that same week. They had attacked another man 2 days after the biker incident, and this time the man pressed charges. When the police went to Roper's house, the mother of one of the boys found a piece of paper in her son's pocket. On it was written a single line, "I cannot eat today. If anyone asks, I did not do it." The paper made the trial shorter. The judge was not kind. The sentence was not soft. Marcus did not speak at the trial. He did not need to. The camera from the tall bearded angel had captured everything. The 78 seconds of footage ran on the news for 3 days in a row. The clip where Marcus threw the bottle of water at the boy's feet was played so many times that even the weatherman on Channel 4 whistled the sound of the bottle breaking. The Hells Angels did a thing they had never done before. They held a small press meeting outside the warehouse on the service road. Dale walked to the cameras with his left hand wrapped in white. Behind him stood 11 brothers in their leather. Beside Dale stood Marcus. Marcus was wearing new shoes. The shoes were brown. They were 2 sizes too big, because Dale had bought them in a hurry. Marcus did not mind. He had never owned shoes that were too big before. He had only owned shoes that were not there. A reporter asked Dale what he felt when the boy jumped on the bike. Dale looked at Marcus. He said, "Simple." He said, "I felt the world had not ended yet." He said, "This boy did not know who I was. He did not know I was an angel. He protected me because his grandmother told him to protect a bleeding stranger. That is the only nation I want to ride for." The reporter asked Marcus one question. She said, "What were you thinking when you ran in?" Marcus thought about it for a long moment. He said, "I was thinking about my mama." He said, "If someone broke my mama's hand, what would I want the world to do?" He said, "I would want a person, just one person, to stand there." The cameras flashed. The world paused. The story spread to every phone in America. By Friday, Marcus had received 947 letters from children in 41 states. By Sunday, a little girl from Texas had mailed him a pair of shoes that fit his feet. A man is not the leather on his back. A man is not the patch on his shoulder. A man is not the color of his skin or the size of his shoes. A man is the answer to one quiet question. When the road is empty and the stranger is bleeding, will you walk past or will you stand there? Marcus answered that question with a bottle of water and 2 slices of bread. He did not have much. He did not need much. He needed only the kind of courage that his grandmother had been quietly sewing into him for 13 years at her window on Linwood Street, one story at a time. This story is for every hungry child who gave up his last coin for a stranger. This story is for every grandmother who taught a quiet skill by the window. This story is for every bleeding man who needed one small boy to stand there. Be the person who stands there. The world is smaller than we think, and the road is shorter than we fear. End.